To share his story about his MSP, how he's doing it, why he's doing it, what types of tools he's using, and your chance to pick the brain of somebody who does not compete with you.
I ended up updating that picture since I grew the beard here. My name is Tim Taylor, the tool man, yes. Say that. It helps people remember me. I'm the #1 salesman for my company, obviously. I started the company in the trunk of my car in 1999 by myself. And today we've got 15 employees and we're maintaining about 2,000 machines. So we're bigger than some of you, we're smaller than some of you, but that's what we do. I've been in IT my whole career, so I'm actually going to give you a little history of my life, and a lot of you will relate to this, how you got into IT. I want to say one thing about Ideation before I got started. We're a recent partner, we signed up with them. There's an association of legal administrators in my town. You should look for it. Every city's got one. These are all the ladies that run all the law firms in town. The attorneys think they run everything, but these are the ladies that really run everything. Because we talked to one of them, actually one of them was our client, and I offered to speak at their event sometime, and they said, sure. I said, what about dark web? They said, absolutely, come talk to us. All I did was present exactly what you did, and I said, we can help you with this. I had a line of them talking to me afterwards. One of them called me in. I literally met her for 5 minutes at that event. She called me in to their whole board. They were looking at doing a major expansion of their network. And she wanted me to bless the plan. It had nothing to do with dark web. And suddenly I was the complete expert. And they had an IT team. And then she called me last week and she said, we're thinking about letting our IT team go and you guys are going to take over everything. 150 machines. And it was just because I said I can do a presentation about the dark web. So there's a lot of residual that can come from that. All right, so my history. Grew up in Memphis, Tennessee.
Whoa.
Who's from Tennessee?
Yeah.
Anybody? All right, fantastic. There's always people from Tennessee, everywhere. Tim Taylor from Tennessee, I love it. All right, I started in college programming on mainframes. Who programmed on a mainframe in college? Absolutely. Whoever used a card system on a mainframe? There you go, the old 360. I think our school had a Unifax. The PC was invented the year I graduated from college. Who worked on these guys? Remember the original PC? The floppy drive was an option. When you turned it on, it came up in cassette basic. It had no floppy drive in it, and there was a cassette port on the back, and you could store your programs on cassette. Yeah. So I moved to California right out of college. Married my college sweetheart, and was a mainframe programmer at a large nonprofit out there. Started installing PCs. Suddenly they came into the computer services department. There were 50 of us in that department. I was a mainframe programmer. And they said, the president's office wants a PC. Who knows anything about it? I said, well, I know how to install one. I played with them a little bit before I came out here. And my life suddenly changed. That was the last program I ever wrote. I became a PC technician. I installed that machine. Then somebody else wanted one. Somebody else wanted one. And over the 13 years I was there, I installed 2,000 PCs and servers. Self-taught, Novell, DOS. We were a beta test site for WordPerfect for a while. And so I started literally from the ground up. Backup and restore horror story. Who's got a horror story with backup and restore? With a tape drive. All right, let me tell you a good one. Working in this environment, we had networks. The original networks would only handle 8 PCs. And then it was 16 PCs, then it was 32. Then they came out with Network 386 that could do 250 machines on one network. The nonprofit I worked at had a hotel as part of their organization. And of course, since we were the IT department, we're in charge of the network at the hotel. So I went in there and it was time to upgrade the operating system on this Novell network. Back then, you had to reformat the server to put the new operating system on. There was no upgrade path. And so I backed everything up on tape, and I reformatted the server, and then I installed the new operating system. I started to restore everything. And as it was restoring, and it printed a report right after it backed up that said, this is everything I backed up. And it started restoring from tape, and I started noticing the file dates on there were really old. And then it finished, and I looked at the data. The data on there was 4 months old. This was a hotel, okay, that updated data constantly. The tape drive hadn't worked in 4 months, but yet it reported that it backed everything up. So I found this out about 3 in the morning. They were all coming back to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. Guess how I felt for the next 5 hours. And I had to tell them when they walked in, by the way, you're now 4 months behind. So thank God it was a nonprofit. All right, so seriously. All right, so the nonprofit I was working at moved to Florida in 1991. So I moved with them, and I worked with them until 1998. And I left there and worked for a small IT firm. It was just me and the owner. That was it. I came from a 1,000-person organization to one that was just me and the owner. All I remember about that year was it was the worst year of my life. That's right. The guy literally told me every day I was no good at IT. I was horrible. Everything I did was wrong. And I realized very quickly why about 25 different people had worked for him over the last 5 years. No one could work for this guy. But it really, really, really motivated me. Who's seen Popeye the Sailor Man? Remember? Popeye goes, finish this line for me if you know it. I've had all I can stand, I can't stand no more, right? So what does Popeye do? He eats the spinach, his arms grow 10 times their size, and he fights his way out of adventures. And that's exactly what I felt like. I was like, you know what? My God, I do know what I'm doing, and I can do this better than you. So in 1999, I started on the trunk of that car. My father passed away in 91, the year we moved to Florida. My mother drove that car, and she called me one day, she was crying, and I said, Mom, what's wrong? She goes, I just bought a new car. I go, what's so bad about that? She goes, I don't want to get rid of my old car. My dad had given it to her before he passed away. And I said, Mom, I know I've always wanted to buy it. She goes, you can just have it. You just come get it, you can have it. So I was on the next plane from Orlando to Memphis. My brother's an attorney, and I didn't want him to get his hands on it. So I wanted to get it. So I got the car, drove it back all the way to Orlando. And the air conditioner, the funny story about that, the air conditioner didn't work. It would come on and off and on and off. Who's heard the show Car Talk? Car Talk on NPR? I called in there one day and I said, I got this problem with the air conditioner. It's always acting up, blah, blah, blah. And I made a couple of jokes, and they get 1,000 phone calls a week. They called 8 people back. I was one of the people they called. And they interviewed me on Car Talk about the air conditioner. And then at the end of the show, they said, well, your mother gave you the car, why don't you send the bill to your mother? So I sent the bill to my mother, and I said, Mom, if you have a problem with this, call this 800 number. And it was the number of Car Talk. So she calls him up. I mean, I told her ahead of time. But she called him up and she said, I just got this bill from my son, and I need an explanation about this. So then they called her, and then we were both on the air on the second show. They were interviewing us. So that was a lot of fun. All right, so like I said, my attitude starting, who started their MSP from scratch in this room? A few of you, all right? My attitude was, I'm going to make it or die trying. I was just going to make it. By 2006, started in 99, we were doing over $1 million a year in sales with 8 employees. There was no managed services. We didn't even have an office. I worked out of my home. All my technicians just went to their first job. Internet connections were T1s or ISDN, remember that? So internet connections weren't very good, so we had to travel to our customers' offices. Started selling Zenith Backup in 2008. Who was a Zenith partner before Datto? Anybody? I know it was. Zenith Infotech, you gotta love them.
Oh.
They came out with a product. I was the first person in Florida to buy it. It was their SSO product, and that's what put them under. They didn't make that product work, and I was the first person to buy it. And it didn't work for me, I'll tell you that much. So I really wanted to get away from Zenith really bad, and so I was at a trade show like this, and I was in the bathroom, and somebody was talking about backup. I said, what are you using? He goes, Datto. I said, Datto, what is that? And he said, a lot of people from Zenith are moving over to Datto. So bought my first Datto around 2008.
We plant people everywhere.
Yeah. What I was really impressed with the most was the range of products. At that time, this was a long time ago, the range of products, and the salesman was just so nice. When I talk, and salesmen typically are, but when I talked to him, he was just like, man, we're really going to help you convert. We're going to help you with this. We're going to help you with that. And he really did. He really did help a lot. So we converted all our Zenith BDRs over to Datto. And my first, who's ever virtualized on a Zenith on a crash server? I had a crash server. Somehow I got a bunch of employees, but somehow I ended up being the one having to run this virtualization. It was at a law firm. This is on a Zenith product now. And on the weekends, what happens in most buildings? They turn off the air conditioning in the building. You ought to go into your customer site sometime. Go in the server room on the weekend. It can be like 90 degrees in there. Well, this was in Florida in the summertime, and it was probably 94 degrees. I remember I literally had to take my shirt off. I had to take my t-shirt off. I was so hot. And that day, we finally got it virtualized.
Just going to town?
I was in there for hours, man. It was rough. All right, so growing firm. We hit $2 million in sales in 2016 with 15 employees. We're going to hit 2.3 this year, I think. We also doubled since 2015. We doubled in the number of machines that we're supporting. In 2010, we were maintaining about 400 machines. Today, we're maintaining about 2,000. So I love Datto, obviously, guys. I tell my clients I will not support their network without a Datto backup. I just won't do it. I said, this is going to be too much risk. I will not do it. You will get ransomware eventually. Something is going to happen to you. And when it happens, who are you going to look at? Me, okay? I don't care how much I told you to buy this and you didn't, you're still going to blame me when something happens. So I'm going to put it in here, all right? When the network goes down, they can't get back for days. Like I said, who are they going to blame? They're going to blame you. They're absolutely going to blame you. If a customer complains about the cost, this is what I do. I break it down to cost per day, okay? You know, the little SP500, we charge $258 a month for that. I typically double what Datto charges me. You know, I could do 50%. The larger ones, we do cut it down a little bit. We typically double the small units. How much is that per day? That's $8 a day to make sure your network is backed up very well. And that business owner goes to bed every night knowing that every single thing he's got is backed up in multiple places. Not just on site, 2 different data centers. 51 cents per month for the data in the cloud. 51 cents a month, that's it. That's all it's costing. Okay. Give you an example, somebody that doesn't have that. Every one of you's probably been in this situation. There's a lady that I know really well. She does HIPAA compliance audits for dentist offices, okay? She called me the other day. She said, I got this dentist out in Tavares, Florida, whose network is down. Can you come out here real quick, blah, blah, blah. So I dropped everything. I drove out there. It's about 45 minutes from my office. I get there. The parking lot is completely full of cars, okay? This is this dentist has 25 PCs, okay? He's got 7 or 8 doctors in there. I walk in the door, and they're all just sitting around doing nothing. The waiting room is full of patients. And they lead me back to the server room, and I go in there, and the old dentist, the guy who founded the practice, was, you know, I bet he was at least 75. He was as white as his lab coat. I mean, he was as white as a sheet. And the first words out of his mouth were, "This is the closest I've ever felt in my life to having a heart attack." That's exactly what he said. And I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "My network's completely crypto locked, hacked, everything." So what kind of backup do you have? Well, I have an external hard drive on here that was completely encrypted. And I said, "Who's your IT guy?" "Well, he's on vacation. That's why you're here." And I said, "Nice." And I said, "Do you have any kind of remote backup?" And this is exactly what he said. "My IT guy's been trying to sell me one for 2 years, and I didn't want to spend the $100 a month." Last time I heard it was 50 grand into this. And all his patients were sitting there waiting. Okay? He eventually had to pay the ransom. His insurance company forced him to pay the ransom, and blah, blah, blah. He was down for days and days and days. Okay? They had not only just ransomware him, when I got on the server finally, there was about 6 accounts. They were administrative level accounts. And these were not users he even knew anything about. They'd hacked the server completely. I mean, it was horrible. Okay, so that's what happens when you don't have a good backup. That's absolutely what happens. Datto protects your client, but it protects you more. Let me just say that right now. You want to stay in business? You want to keep your customers? It protects you more than it protects them, honestly. That's how I look at it. If your clients have a hard time paying for it, try this. For $10 per user per month, just add it onto your managed services. We'll back up your server data into the cloud. We'll install the device that I can restore from quickly. Break it down per user. I'll just charge you per user to back up all of your data instead of saying per server. You're charging them per user anyway for managed services. Just add that number on. Okay? I can virtualize on this device if your server crashes completely. Who's virtualized on the Datto and saved your client's butt? Okay? A perfect example. I'm going to give that example in just a minute. But yeah, Spine Center of Orlando. Spine Center of Orlando, they had an old domain controller, and I said, "Guys, you need a new one," and they finally agreed to it. After many meetings and meeting with all the doctors, they finally agreed to it. Friday afternoon, they signed the contract. What happens Monday morning? Bam, there goes the old server, okay? You cannot get it back up. We virtualized them on the Datto. They were down for about an hour and a half. We virtualized them on the Datto, and they ran off of it all week. The next weekend, we put a new server in, restored the data. Now the data on the Datto is now changed data. We imaged it back to the new server, different hardware, okay? And then the next Monday morning, they come in, they're running on the new server. They were down for an hour and a half. That's it. They see 1,000 patients a week in 4 different offices, okay? So that is an example I use all the time. If they just won't pay for it, put it in there anyway. Save your own butt. I'm serious about this. You can't let something like this. When you have a disaster that happens, this is what will happen. Disaster will happen, and you'll work your butt off to restore them, blah, blah, blah. You'll kill yourself, you'll work all night, whatever. At the end, they'll thank you, and they'll start looking for another MSP. Because they're gonna say, you should not have let this happen. I don't care how much money you save them, how much you save them, or even if you charge them for that, they will blame you when it happens. So save yourself, okay? The smaller the network, the more likely they are to fight you. The larger clients realize they have to have it, okay? The Alto, excellent device, cheaper alternative. You can do everything except virtualize on site, but you can do that in the cloud. Like I said, I give Altos away to my small clients. I say, look, we're providing the hardware device for you, you just pay the monthly fee. And I really don't give them an option. I say, we're not gonna support you if you don't have this device in here, okay? So, just real quickly here at the end, I just wanted to mention that I've been asked by many people over the years, well, let me ask you this. When I started my company in 1999, I looked for a book, How to Start and Run a Successful IT Company, and I couldn't find it. I looked everywhere. And in 2015, I said, well, I'll just write it myself. So I actually wrote How to Start and Run a Successful IT Company. It's up on Amazon now. And I just recorded the Audible version. That was quite an undertaking. So that's my voice on it. So if you want the Audible version, it's up on Amazon now. And I also have the Kindle version. So anyway, I have a little consulting group, Tim Taylor Consulting. Again, I wrote the book. It started selling on Amazon in 2016. I sold hundreds of copies all over the world. It's a really high MSP. And I'm still an MSP today. This is what I do every day. I spend 25% of my time doing consulting with people just like yourselves. If you feel like you're not making enough money in your practice, if you feel like you'd like some help, perfect practice for me is a guy that's, guy's got 3 or 4 employees or 2 or 3. He's just getting started good and he really wants to make more money. Okay, that's the people I help the most. Okay. Kindle Audible version, started my consulting practice, working with MSPs all over the country, and I still own and run my own MSP. So if I can help you guys, I have about 4 copies of the book with me. If anybody's really interested, I do have a copy back there. But I'd love to help you out. Again, I'm still an MSP. I work in this field every single day, and I'm not just somebody that sold their MSP many years ago and consults with people. And I'm extremely useful because I know where you guys are. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Talk really fast because I'm the last thing before.
Good presentation. Thanks.
Right out there.